Welcome, everyone, to this briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF. In Hebrew, our name is Abitachon Nistim. IDSF is the leading Israeli organization advocating for strong national security to defend Israel. It's a great pleasure to be joined today by the founder and chairman of IDSF, Brigadier General Amir Avivi. General, thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure.
General, what can you tell us about the war right now?
Yeah, so I met this week with the Minister of Defense and also the Chief of the Police. And I want to share some very, very important insights about what is happening and where things are going. First, I want to say that what we see in Lebanon compared to Gaza is very different. In Gaza, Hamas, because it's easy to dig, they dug all these tunnels really, really deep and created a reality where both the intelligence and the Air Force became really almost disabled in their ability to operate and do something meaningful. And this required us to really go into Gaza, every single meter concrete, go into the tunnels and do what we have been seeing in the last year in Gaza, something that also takes a lot of time. Lebanon is a very different terrain. Digging there, it's very hard. It's all rock. So along the border, in certain areas, there were deep tunnels, not deep, I mean, tunnels which are in the rock, which are not very deep actually, because it's hard to dig. But a lot of the infrastructure and the way Hezbollah built itself is not necessarily similar to what we saw in Gaza. And when you combine it with the level of intelligence that we enjoyed there, we see a completely different scenario where the Air Force, with some special operations, pagers, things that we saw, are managing to really cripple Hezbollah and dismantle them in a way that couldn't have imagined that it will be so really effective. Almost all the leadership of Hezbollah is being destroyed, certainly the military one, on the strategic and on the tactical level. Hezbollah is left with maybe 20% of their shooting capability. Most of it was destroyed, or some of it they shot. Thousands and thousands of operatives that were hit. And the way the IDF with the Air Force and the intelligence are working is really, really bringing Hezbollah on its knees. This enabled us to launch a ground incursion that it's not like in Gaza. In Gaza, we really went into all Gaza. Here, it's very, very limited, and it's dealing with the vast infrastructure Hezbollah built on our borders, like in a mile, until a mile from the border. They built a whole infrastructure that was supposed to enable them to storm the Israeli towns very, very fast by going out of tunnels with motorcycles, cars, a lot of explosives, a lot of weapons, and so on. And this, the IDF is dismantling. And this is why the operation inside Lebanon is very limited. But anything that is beyond the first mile or two, all the way to the Dahia, Beirut, and beyond, is being dealt with the Air Force. And we are seeing more and more voices in Lebanon begging for stopping the war, wanting a ceasefire. Israel is in contact with all the different elements in Lebanon, like the Sunnis, the Christians, the Maronis, the Druze, in order to send a clear message. We are destroying Hezbollah. This is your moment to join and really kick this organization out of Lebanon. And things are moving. We are seeing things changing in Lebanon, and the idea is let's continue, not stop. We have to destroy this organization, and we need to continue, not look for ceasefire or something like that, unless they break, leave South Lebanon, and there is really effective forces that will be deployed there. So we have to see this is developing. Now, as this is happening, something very, I would say two big things are happening that we need to be aware of. One is that with the Iranians, their whole strategy, and I wrote about it extensively in my book, is creating depths. They talk about the need to have depths, meaning they need to have Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, to really safeguard Iran and not have Iran having to deal with fighting directly, but do it through the proxies and create depths. Israel has reached the point which is basically dismantling the depths of Iran, dismantling Hamas and Hezbollah. In a few weeks, we'll reach the point where really both organizations are almost completely crippled. And this creates a reality where Iran is naked. Without these elements safeguarding Iran, and what will happen in this reality probably is that Iran, feeling that it's in a grave danger, they will accelerate the nuclear plans. So we are now in a situation where we are starting a race. They are going to make a run for nuclear weapons, and we have to make a run to destroy their capabilities. This is what's happening. And fighting Iran, I said 11 months. The war in Lebanon is imminent. Now I'm saying crystal clear, war with Iran is imminent. And this is not about what is Israel going to do in a week or in a day or in 2 weeks as a retaliation to the shooting they did. It's not about that. It's much, much bigger than that. It's about a campaign that needs to end with Iran crippled and not able to endanger Israel in any way. And this is not a day and not a week and not a month. This is a campaign that might take a few months and might take more. And there will be challenges, but it's something that we know we can really win. We can do it. Now, this is how it will be exactly and how it will develop and what will happen, because it's not going to be short. It's not about just the retaliation now. And because it's going to go into the elections in the US and beyond, and the change of administration, what will happen in the US is going to impact dramatically the scenario in the Middle East and in Israel. If we'll have an administration that understands that the only option with Iran is a military one, then we might see a joint coalition really, really attacking fiercely Iran and changing the whole reality of the list. And if we have an administration that wants to continue with the idea of appeasement, Israel will have to do it alone. So we are preparing for both scenarios, but anyway, this is going to happen. Israel is not going to let Iran be nuclear. It's not going to happen. We are going to fight, and we are going to make sure that this is going to happen. It's, Iran. Why we are talking about now? This is the Iranian octopus. But we are seeing in the last few weeks more and more terror attacks inside Israel, some of them emanating from Israeli Arabs, Bedouins. Saw it in the Negev, we saw it in Hedera, in Lod, and we have to remember that we have a huge potential of an inner fight inside the land of Israel, Israeli Arabs, Palestinians in Judea and Samaria. And we need to dismantling Hamas and Hezbollah. The next two challenges, Iran and Israel, the land of Israel Arabs, okay? Arabs who live in the land of Israel. It's not defined by a green line. And now the big challenge for IDSF, as we predicted the war in Gaza and Iran and Lebanon, is to really make the society and the government understand how big is the challenge of a war with the Arabs in the land of Israel. And they're getting more and more incited. It's getting dangerous. And we have to get ready and deal with this. If it happens on a big scale, we don't know, but definitely the signs are there. I can say that I just finished a phone call with one of our generals who was the head of intelligence of the Mossad. And he called me exactly to talk about that, to say, Amir, as a general in the intelligence, I am seeing that this is about to happen, that there might be an uprising inside Israel, and we need to get ready. And this is something that we are going to work very hard now to make sure that the Prime Minister, the Minister of Interior Security, of Defense, Police, we are ready. We met with the head of the police this week also, Danny, and discussed some of these very important issues. As we are dealing with all these issues, we are also discussing the issue of draft to the army. For IDSF, it's very important for us that everybody will serve in the army, and we're pushing this policy. We think that every single Jew has to serve, also the ultra-Orthodox. We are very respectful for studying Torah, and we know how much Torah is important also for securing the Jewish people. But 3 years, everybody needs to serve, even if it means studying Torah on uniform. So we really want to see everybody serving, and we really appreciate the values of the Jewish people, and think it's part of our national security. But we need thousands and thousands of soldiers to sustain the war, and there is nothing more important than Israel's security. This is above everything. It's even above Shabbat in Judaism. When you are in danger of life, you can not keep Shabbat to save your life. This is part of our values. And when we're talking about the existence of Israel, this is something that everybody needs to be part of. And we're dealing with this. Moshe?
Wow, General, thank you for sharing all of that. You spoke about the threats from Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, Arab society, and of course, this big issue of army service. Let's go back to Iran. The questions are flowing in, and so thank you to everyone sending the questions in the Zoom or to my email. Let's go back to Iran. You said that there's now going to be a race to nuclear weapons because Iran has been stripped of their proxies of Hezbollah and Hamas, and therefore Israel has to cripple Iran's capacity to endanger Israel. So the question is, what does that mean? Does that mean Israel needs to focus on the nuclear weapons or the nuclear capacity to create weapons in Iran? Or does that mean that Israel has to focus on the regime and the country as a whole? Do you have a distinction there?
there are four things Israel can focus on: the nuclear sites, the oil and refineries, and everything that enables Iran to make money. The leadership, as we did with Hezbollah and Hamas, and the military capabilities. What will be the first thing we'll deal with? I know, but I cannot share that. But definitely when we talk about an overall war with Iran, we'll have to probably deal with more than one thing. We certainly need to deal with the nuclear sites. That goes without saying at one point. And maybe we'll see some leaders disappearing. And so there is a lot of work, many things we need to do. But the Iranians have to understand they made a huge, huge, huge mistake dealing with us. And they learned it the hard way, like Hezbollah did.
No doubt about that.
Moshe? Moshe?
Second Intifada, meaning with all those hundreds of suicide bombings within Israel, what is the formula for Israel getting on top of that?
Well, it means that really we have to launch a really large operation to clean the Arab streets from weapons. There are hundreds of thousands of weapons in the Arab villages. And we need to deal with this. We need to really look at it as a huge danger, not different from the reality we're seeing in Ramallah or Nablus. There are families of criminals that need to be arrested. We need to be able to synchronize all these alert teams that have been built in the different towns and cities in Israel with the police, like a national guard. Unfortunately, we dealt a lot with trying to help the Ministry of Internal Security and the police to push the idea of a national guard, but they did, unfortunately, a very poor job and not really pushing it the right way. And it needs to move much faster. We need a very, very coordinated and strong National Guard. And unfortunately, we are not there. Yes, we have alert teams spread all over Israel, but it's not synchronized. It's not working the way it's supposed to be. And the police don't know how to mobilize all these forces and coordinate them. So definitely we have to do things, and we have to do them fast. And this is something that we're going to sit with the Prime Minister and prepare it on a whole different level, while creating awareness in the society and working with the police.
Thank you, General. Let's jump now to Hezbollah. Israel set the war goal for the north to attack Hezbollah to the point where the 60,000 some residents of the north of Israel can return home. And now when you're talking about Hezbollah in this briefing, you're using the language of destroying Hezbollah. So I'm curious if you think that that's an additional war goal. Has something changed? Are we seeing that beyond just restoring the residents, Hezbollah can really be once and for all taken care of?
Yeah, so actually now I'm just coming from a meeting with Gidon Sal. And one of the things I said to him in the meeting is we need to adjust the goals of war as things are evolving. when Israel started attacking Hezbollah, the goal was to return safely the citizens home. But now that we are seeing what we are achieving, we must adjust the goals of war and put the destruction of Hezbollah as a goal of war. Because we can achieve it. When you can achieve something, you need to set it, especially if it's important and it's crucial to do it. So I guess that also maybe, I don't know, in a few weeks, in a month, at a certain point, Israel will also set a goal of destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities. So things are evolving, and we'll see more and more goals of war set. And we'll have to also, at a certain point, after we deal with all of this for a few months, also really dismantle everything that Israelis, Arabs have, and Palestinians in Judah and Samaria, and really change completely the reality in Israel. And it's achievable. Just not to keep doing the good job that we're doing at the moment.
And you had said that Hezbollah is down to a 20% firing capacity. That's unbelievable. I'm curious to know how easily can they get supplies by running whatever they run through Iraq, through Syria? Is once they get 20%, can they go back up, or that's where they're going to stay, or lower?
It took them 20 years to build what they have, and we destroyed it in 2 weeks. And we are closing also their capabilities to build themselves again. There is even not the people to procure or deal with this. We're killing all of them, so they are not functioning really. And we can do more. We have to continue to do that. But it's interesting to see when I went to when I had the meeting with the Ministry of Defense, I went to speak afterwards with the CEO of the Ministry of Defense, and I asked him, okay, I understand how much they have. What's going on with us? What's going on with our munitions? And it's unbelievable to see that we have today more munitions, much more, than what we had on the 7th of October when the war started. So we started at a certain point, which was not good. We are fighting for a year. Everybody sees how many missiles were shooting at Hezbollah, thousands. And now we have more munitions than we had on the 7th of October a year ago. So the Ministry of Defense is doing an amazing job. The military industries are growing exponentially, producing more and more and more capabilities. We are getting also capabilities from the US, but I can say that in a year or two, Israel will be on an international level one of the biggest producers of munitions in the world. And we're moving very, very fast towards very, very strong capabilities. And this is very, very good news. And as our enemies are losing their capabilities very fast, and they cannot renew themselves, Israel is becoming stronger and stronger every day that goes by.
Brigadier General Amir Avivi, thank you so much for sharing this briefing with us. I know that we have many viewers who are closing this briefing in a little bit of a better mood than when they started, because you have shared with us a lot of good news and amazing accomplishments during this war. We have the holiday of Yom Kippur coming up. Many of our viewers observe the day. Do you have any final thoughts to share before we close off for the holiday weekend?
Yes, I think that I mean, we know how to win wars, and we knew from the very beginning that we'll do the right things. I think that's really what we need to reflect on. And this is something that maybe it's the core mission of IDSF, is really learn the lessons of what should be the national security vision of Israel in the long term. And we have to lead a new national security concept, which is pretty much based on things that we in IDSF thought even much before the war, because we had the right ideas, but now we really need to make sure that both the society and decision makers embrace all these ideas, so we can build a safe future for Israel. Think that this Yom Kippur, everybody will have time to reflect about everything that will happen in the last year and how we can do better the next year. And I think that this year is much less about just each one and its own story. It's much more about each one and its own nation. It's about us and the people of Israel, the state of Israel, and the way we need to really unite and be together and face our enemies and create a much better future for our kids and grandkids and looking for generations to come.
Amen. General, thank you so much. Thank you to all of our viewers and supporters for tuning in. We will be back with you next week, Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. here in Israel. Until then, stay safe, stay strong. Take care, everyone.